All right, let's begin your practice today in a tabletop position, hands and knees, with your shoulders over your wrists, hips over your knees. Split your feet apart and then come back to sit between your heels, either on the floor or on a block in Virasana. If this is too intense on your knees, take your heels back in together underneath your sit bones and sit on your heels. Take your fingers in and interlace and flip your palms out and then stretch your arms up to the ceiling. Keep pressing your palms up to the ceiling and move your back ribs over the back of your hips. So you can keep the little bend in your back lumbar spine, the natural curve, but try not to lean forward too much with your shoulders and your front ribs. Good. Release your hands down and take your hands back out to the front of your mat. Tabletop position again. Exhale as you round and push the floor away with your knees and hands. And then with your inhale, start to open your chest. Look forward, extend your spine. Exhaling, rounding your spine, dropping your gaze under, dropping your chin under. Let your head just kind of shake out a little bit. You can wave it to the left and the right. You can start to then inhale back into your extension, opening your chest. And again, you can wiggle a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. So finding some movement here. And then we're going to take the left knee over around the back of the right knee and sit back between your feet, Gomukhasana, cow face legs. Again, if you need to sit on a block or a bolster to elevate your hips, get that in place. And then flex your ankles and push the outer ankle bones up off the floor, pressing your outer pinky toe side of your foot down into the floor. And remain seated upright for a few moments just to let your legs and your hips settle in this position. And if your knees are free of pain, you can start to walk your hands forward and forward bend, bowing your chin, and bowing your head. Or you could keep looking forward, and that opening chest will help to take some pressure out of the hips. If you drop your chin into your chest, you're definitely going to fire up the back line a little bit more. You might want to play with that and see if it's a good feeling or if it's uncomfortable, and make sure that it's not discomfort that you're experiencing here. And then again, maybe a little rock to the left and a rock to the side, to the right. Just moving around in different areas to get the hips to open up in all the different nooks and crannies. With your inhale, roll back over your hands and knees and uncross your legs back into tabletop pose. Big toes touch, split your knees, and sit your hips back to your heels. Child's pose, Balasana. Another big round of breath here. Exhale. Inhale, reach up nice and tall. Press your hips up so you're in a kneeling upward hand position. Open your chest. Exhale, release your hands and take your hands back out to the floor in front of you so you can then reposition your shoulders over your wrists in tabletop pose. Inhale, open, and exhale, round. Back into cat-cow. And here in cat-cow, you can side bend left to right, right to left. Inhale, open your chest. And again, maybe a little bit of a side bend, just moving your shoulders to the side. You can move your hips as well. Okay, we're going to switch the crossing of the legs. So now your left leg is on top. So your right knee is going to come over behind your left leg. And then you're going to sit back between your feet. Again, flex your ankles and take your outer ankle bones up off the floor and press your outer pinky toe side of your foot down into the floor. One side might be different, so maybe you need elevation here under your sit bones, or maybe you don't on this side. But again, find the upward posture here, the upward seating posture, just to let your hips settle, let the knees soften. Using a few breaths to calm your body and your nervous system, especially in a pose that could be tight on your outer hips. And then as you're comfortable, you can start to walk your hands forward as you become comfortable in the pose. Again, if you lift your chin and lengthen out, the back of the neck. It's not going to pull so much on your back muscles. But if you liked that sensation, if it was good and it felt like a really good stretch or shearing of the fascia, then you can drop your chin and your forehead and round your upper back and round your neck. And it's going to kind of intensify that stretch all the way down to your hips through your low back. But keep pressing your hands into the mat and keep your arms straight, just to keep your sit bones driven back into the floor, not really grinding them or pushing them forcefully, but rooting through the sit bones. Your breath here is moving into your back. You can really feel the space here, and you can feel the breath take up that space. And then on your next inhale, come back over into hands and knees and unwrap your legs back into tabletop position. Hips over knees, shoulders over wrists, toes together, split your knees, and stretch back again, child's pose. Breathe right into those ribs, expand out through your spine, expand out through your hands. Inhale, pushing down into your knees and shins, reach your arms up, kneeling upward hand pose. Exhale, take your hands back down to the floor, out in front of you, a little bit farther out in front of you this time. Downward facing dog. Tuck your toes under, lift your knees, and press your sit bones up and back. Lengthen out your spine, the lumbar spine. Your knees could stay bent. You can pedal out your feet here, lifting one heel and then the other. And again, feel free to move the shoulders around and rotate, side bending, and then twisting open, side to side. You can feel the left side, right side, lengthen, and switch. And then just take a moment in downward facing dog before we come to the top of the mat. So rooting and grounding, feeling equal balance and support between your hands and feet. Use your next inhale to look forward so you can step up or hop up into a forward bend Uttanasana. And press down into your feet and widen out your sit bones, engage your thighs. And again, let your chin fall in, let your forehead relax down. You're going to press down into your heels and engage your back muscles and your glutes as you lift up and all the way up into an upward hand pose standing. So we did this kneeling, now it's standing. Release your arms, Samastitihi, standing pose. Press out through your toes, the four corners of your feet. Inhale, reach your arms back up. Exhale, forward bend, Uttanasana. As you forward bend, let your forehead rest in. Press down into the balls of your feet. Step your left leg back and keep the right heel driven down. Left heel also turns down, but at an angle so that you are in warrior one. Right knee bends so that the right shin is vertical. Lift your chest. Seal the outer left foot. Inhale here and exhale. And then on your next inhale, straighten your right leg. You can take your hands behind your back if you practice reverse prayer. You could also grab opposite forearms or elbows with your hands and then lengthen out over your right leg. Keep pressing into the ball of your right foot as you maintain that drive of the left heel down into the floor. Feel that as a counterbalance to this weight shift forward over your right leg. Squeeze your left thigh and lift that right hip bone. Press it up to the ceiling. Lengthen your spine. Bend your right knee. Hands come to the floor. Inhale, open your chest and just drop that left knee down. It can even touch the floor. It can slightly hover over the floor. And then exhale, step back. Downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Big breath here. Inhale then into your plank pose. Bend your elbows, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog or cobra. And exhale, downward facing dog, rolling over those toes or tucking your toes or rolling over your knees. Smooth out that length of your spine. Inhale here and exhale into the hands and the feet. Feel the weight sinking evenly into both hands and feet. Look forward so you can step or hop forward Exhale into the fold, Uttanasana. Inhale out of the fold, reach up nice and tall, Urdhva Hastasana, upward hand pose. Samastitihi, exhale, standing pose. Take a moment here. Inhale, press back up. If you need more time before moving to the second side, stay in that standing position just for a few moments. Exhale as you forward bend for side 2. And this time your right leg's going to step back. Right heel down at a slight angle. Send the left heel straight down, driving it right into the floor. Left shin vertical. Use your right glutes and hamstrings to extend that right hip. And turn your right ribs forward, pressing back into the outer right heel. Big inhale here. Exhale, sink a little deeper. Inhale, straighten your left leg. Place your palms behind you for reverse prayer, or grab your opposite forearms or elbows and lengthen out over your left leg now. Remember to keep the right leg very strong. The right thigh is engaged. And you're driving straight down into that right heel. Lift your left thigh and pull the left kneecap up and push out through your left toes, spreading them apart. Lengthen out over the left leg. And then bend your left knee, release your hands down to the floor. Again, just kind of lower the right knee down and lift your chest up. Your hands can be on the floor. Your left knee can kind of spin out to the side a little bit. It can kind of turn out. And then on your exhale, step back, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Inhale into plank pose. Exhale, Chaturanga, bend your elbows. Point your toes back and inhale, press your chest through your shoulders for upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog, rolling over your toes or your knees. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Soften into it. Level out those hands and feet. Balance out the weight. Lift your right leg as you inhale. And as you exhale, squeeze your right knee into your chest to step through in between your hands with your right foot. Left heel comes down. This time, warrior 2. Open your arms. Let your left shoulder turn in the direction of your left hip so it's not squared off to the side of the room. There's a slight angle to your torso there. But then stretch your left arm straight back and feel that stretch across your left chest and shoulder. Exhale, right hand to the floor or your ankle or a block, and left arm overhead. Uttita Parshva Konasana, extended side angle. Keep pressing back with your left foot. Energize your inner left thigh up away from the floor. Exhale, left hand down. Right foot back, downward facing dog. Lift those hips to make room for your right foot to step back. Smooth out your breath here. Inhale forward into plank pose, Chaturanga. Exhale. So you can always leave the Chaturanga behind and skip it. And you can always gather your breath and just enjoy the stillness in downward facing dog. If you are moving through the Chaturanga Vinyasa, make your way back through downward facing dog after upward facing dog. Use your exhale to settle in. Energize your inner arches, and now your left foot's going to float up. Press up through your left toes, straighten out that left leg. Exhale, squeeze your left knee into your chest and step your left foot up in between your hands. Your right heel comes down at an angle. And when you come up to stand, your left shin is vertical, and you can feel your hips level out here. Push the right sit bone down, lift the left sit bone up. And press out through your feet even as you squeeze in with your hips. Exhale, transition into side angle. Left hand to the floor outside of your foot or on a block, or your left hand can reach in front of your ankle and pull, kind of scrubbing it back. Open the left side a little longer and keep pushing back through your right foot as you actively stretch out your right arm overhead. Right hand down. Left leg steps back to meet the right. Exhale, downward facing dog. And on your next inhale, plank pose. Chaturanga, exhale. Inhale, upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Lift those sit bones, press your thighs back. Feel your heels lower as a result of your thighs pressing back. Good. And then step or hop forward. Inhale, look up, see where you're going to go and land with your feet. Forward bend into your legs. And then on your inhale, use your back muscles to reach up all the way up. You can come up with a bent knee as well if you get a little lightheaded when you lift up. Samastitihi, standing pose. All right, we're going to step back into Trikonasana. So left foot back, left heel down, straighten out your right leg. Left hand slides down your right hand slides down your right shin. And I'm going to take the hand to the floor outside of my right foot so I can let my right hip kind of pop out a little bit. Typically, I don't teach it like this, but I just want there to be some space in the inner right thigh and the outer left hip. I want to feel a stretch on the outer left hip. So you could use a block behind your right leg. And press up with your left hand and press down with both feet. Start to now spin over to the long edge of your mat for wide leg forward bend. So your right toes turned in, and then you can bow down in between that wide leg stance, head to the floor or to a block. Press down into your feet, lift those sit bones up. One more big breath here. Inhale, half lift, and then spin back to face the front of your mat. So your right toes turn back forward. Right knee bends, left leg straightens, left hand down. On the floor, reach your right arm up, twisting open. Keep the right knee bent. And then see if you can hug in a little closer to your inner right thigh so it's not so much of a back bend. I'm going to add on to revolved triangle. You're welcome to stay in the revolved lunge if this pose is too intense and it doesn't feel good in your ankles or knees or the outer hip. My left hand is on the outside of my right foot now, and you could use a block. Both legs straight, the left heel down on the floor, lengthen the spine away from the tailbone, and your right arm straight up to the ceiling. Remember to press down equally into both feet, zip that belly in, untwist now, and then walk back again to the edge of your mat. Back into that wide leg forward bend. Prasarita Padottanasana. Press down into your feet. You can take your hands behind your back here and interlace your fingers and drop your arms overhead for a stretch, good shoulder stretch. Notice where your hips are in space and feel if they're moving front to back, and control that with your core and your feet together, working together. All right, and then walk back again to the front of your mat. Plant your palms so you're facing forward again. Sweep your right leg up with your left leg staying, three-leg dog. You can open your right hip. I'm going to take chin stand. You can take wild thing or side plank instead. Skip any of those or all of those. Don't do any of them if you don't want. And then chaturanga when you're ready. So in chin stand, it is a back bend. You're using those back muscles and glute muscles. You can just lift one leg at a time, or both legs could lift. Chin is just gently resting on the floor. Make your way through chaturanga. Inhale into up dog and exhale into downward facing dog, and take as long as you need here to rest. Maybe it's child's pose for you to let your wrists recover from that. But gather your breath in from your belly and send it to your back. After a few moments of rest, you're going to come back into standing hand to foot pose, Padahastasana. So simply walking back to the end of your mat and placing your palms under each foot, moving your fingers in under your foot, under the toe side. Round out your spine, bend your elbows out away from each other, and engage your thighs. Not so much to lock them out straight, but to lift the kneecaps. Okay, slowly release your hands, and you can press up to stand. Inhale, reach your arms up, Urdhva Hastasana. Samastitihi, standing pose. So I'm just simply going to turn around and face the other direction and do this all on the second side. And you can walk back up to the front of your mat. I just wanted you to be able to see from the front what I was doing. My right foot's now stepping back. Left leg straightens out. Right heel is down on the floor. And notice my hips are not squaring off to the side of the room. They're not opening up. So it kind of starts out as a forward bend and then it turns into a twist. So let that left hip get out of the way. Keep the right hip pointing forward a little bit more. And then this will help open the torso up and concentrate the twist more in the upper spine. Stretch up with your right hand and push down with your left hand on the floor or the block. And then equal press into those feet. Release your hands down, the right hand down, and then walk over again to the long edge of your mat for that wide leg forward bend. And feel free to move around if you want to bend your knees and just kind of flow a little bit, or enjoy a static forward bend. Prasarita Padottanasana. Press down into your feet equally. Lift those thighs, lift the kneecaps. And then as you inhale, walk back over to the end of your mat to the left leg. So you're in a runner's lunge. Right leg is straight, left knee is bent. Right hand on the floor. Try to keep that left sit bone down as you twist open with your left side and your left arm. Lengthen the back of your neck. Lengthen from right heel to head and from right hand to left hand. Again, I'm going to add on to the revolved triangle expression so you can keep the runner's lunge twist or start to straighten out your left leg. I did hop forward a little bit and I condensed that stance slightly. Squeeze those inner thighs together and try to keep the right hip and left hip level so that neither one are dropping down. Push into your right hand on the floor or the block outside of your left foot and stretch up with that left arm. Right thigh is very strong. Squeeze your right thigh. And then release your hands down. You can bend that left knee. Turn off again to the side of your mat for wide leg forward bend. Prasarita Padottanasana. And again, if you want to take the arm stretch, hands behind, you could grab your big toes and pull your elbows away from each other. Take any hand variation for the next couple breaths that opens up your shoulders and releases your wrists. Good, and then release your hands back down to the floor if you've got those hands behind your back. Walk over to the left, past the left foot, back up to the top of your mat. Again, sweep your left leg up now for three-leg dog. Open the hip, and if you took Wild Thing or side plank on the first side or chin stand, you can give it a go on this side. I'm going to come forward, bend my elbows, and again, for that chin stand, it's just the chin lightly resting on the floor. The shoulders are slightly lower than the elbows. The legs can lift up using your glutes and your back muscles. And then when you're ready, exhale back into Chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Inhale. Downward facing dog. Exhale. Big breath here. Lengthen out your spine. Lengthen out the fronts of your thighs, the backs of your thighs. And take a few moments here if you need child's pose to rest, or you can stay in downward facing dog before moving on to the next set of standing poses. Right foot steps up to the top of your mat. High lunge. With your inhale, reach your arms. Right shin vertical. Left leg is strong. Lift the left knee and squeeze your left thigh. You take your arms up if your balance is steady. And if your back is okay to back bend here, we are then going to move into a twist. So now I'm going to lean forward about halfway in like a 45-degree angle at my hips. And then I'm going to take my left elbow and hook it over the right thigh. Prayer pose. Keep the back leg straight and keep the right knee over the ankle, right shin vertical. Revolved high lunge here. Exhale. And then on your inhale, lower your left knee down, untwist, and reach your arms up into a low lunge. So my right knee is going to go over my ankle. I'm really going to give that a deep low lunge here to get into the front of the left hip. Open your arms, a little back bend if it's okay for your back. Exhale, release your hands down. And then start to pull your hips back and start to take your right leg off to the left if you're going to take this arm balance. I'm framing shelving my outer right hip with my 2 elbows. The legs can split. You can keep your knees together, or you can keep the back leg on the floor. Chaturanga back to the floor, and sometimes it's a belly flop, and that's okay. Inhale, upward facing dog with wide legs. Take an extra breath. And child's pose. Sit back, hips to heels. Stretch those arms forward and rest those wrists. Breathe right into that low back. Expand your shoulders. Soften your knees, your ankles. Inhale, come back up to hands and knees. Tuck your toes. Lift your knees, downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Okay, so now your left foot's going to step forward. Right leg stays nice and strong, nice and straight. Inhale, come up to your lunge. Set up the foundation first. So if you need a few moments to get your legs steady, then you could add in the arms as you're ready. And we're going to move this into that twist. Again, hover forward halfway. Exhale, hook your right elbow. Keep your right leg strong and left hand on top of your right hand so that your prayer pose, your left hand can push into your right to help twist your left ribs open a little bit more without rounding your upper back or letting your chest collapse. Keep driving that left sit bone down and the right thigh up. Lower your right knee down, and then as you inhale, you can untwist here and bend your left knee way, way over your ankle. Again, you can feel your left shin start to point forward on a little diagonal line. And then you can reach your arms up, or you can keep your hands down by your sides. Press back through your right toes, especially that big toe. It points straight back. Exhale, take your hands down to the floor. And then start to go on back with your hips so you can move your left leg over to the right. And again, here you're going to shelf the outer left hip from knee to hip, hip to knee on those 2 arms. Splitting your legs, that right foot can touch down, both knees can bend, the front knee can bend. And then if you want to hop back to your toes, lift your hips and throw your legs back. Elbows stay bent. Upward facing dog, inhale. And downward facing dog. Exhale. Again, actually child's pose. Just go there and rest those wrists. But if you prefer child's pose or downward facing dog, please feel free to take downward facing dog. And wherever you are, you can roll around your shoulders, massage your hips, massage your forehead if it's on the floor. And take as long as you need here before moving on to the next posture. When you are ready, downward facing dog, lift your knees, press your hips up, open your back, nice back extension. And then we're going to walk back again to the feet here with your hands coming back into that Padahastasana. So take your time, especially if you're still resting and catching up. Walk back to your feet when you are ready. Place your palms under your toes, step on the palms with your feet. And then bend your elbows out away from each other, stretching out those wrists. It's nice, gentle, a little tractioning there in the wrists. Thighs are strong, belly is engaged, round that back. One more breath here. And then as you inhale, release up halfway, feet one at a time. Come up so your hands can come up. And then press up to stand, Samastitihi. All right, so I'm going to turn around and face forward again. And if you're already there, you can just stay where you are. Samastitihi, standing pose. We're going to fly this into Warrior 3. So first what I'm going to do is just step back with my right leg. It's nothing tricky, nothing fancy. It's just a simple setup. Actually step back with your left leg. If you're on your right leg already, it's fine. We can switch sides later. It's not a big deal. Do one side and then we'll do the other. So right here, I'm flying that left leg back, stretching my body forward and using the back muscles to extend my spine. And then once my arms extend, I'm going to press back with the left foot to counterbalance. Let your left toes turn out a little bit if you need. We don't need to turn them down. The minute you turn your left toes down, your hip down, you fall. So just get the balance in the leg and work on it. Now, if this is a good opportunity for you to take handstand, please take advantage of it. If it's not, then skip it. A standing split here as I'm demonstrating is perfectly fine with the top knee bent. If you're going to take some handstand hops, do like 4. Keep the left leg reaching to the ceiling and the right leg straight. Oh, and then walk on your hands, sure. For the first 1 or 2, if you keep the right leg straight, you're not going to go too far up to the ceiling. And then that right foot can come back down. You are actively searching for the ceiling with your left leg. Now, if you bend the right knee, you're going to maybe find some more air time. And then you can land back down on the floor. Oop. Kick your legs around, it's fine. Wobble around a little bit. And then just one more little hop if you've got it in you. I clearly did not, so I'm like, done. Thanks, but done. Pyramid pose to stretch. And of course, this is your practice at home. So if you feel like a chaturanga, it makes sense to you, you're welcome to handstand into chaturanga. I'm going to now squat down into Vinyasa garland pose and just give myself a little recovery in the wrists. You can do what you like with your hands. You could wrap around to your heels. I just wanted my forearms to rest on the floor to give my wrists a break. Okay, up to stand for side 2. So again, a simple entrance into warrior 3, stepping back with my right leg now so that I can bend my left knee and shift my weight forward with my right leg already behind me. It's not such a huge jump into the balancing pose when you've got the right leg already behind you. And then it's just a matter of taking that left hip on rotation so that you can flex the left hip. Reach your right leg back behind you. You're extending your right hip using your right glutes. Take your arms forward. Press back with your right foot. Again, if your right toes need to turn out a little bit, it's not the end of the world. I wouldn't do it on purpose, but don't fight it. And then hands down. And again, you can play with the standing split here or handstand. Take like 3 or 4 hops. The first one, like I said, maybe the left leg stays straight. Maybe the second one, left leg stays straight, or the left knee starts to bend. And then you feel that knee bend activates the left hip. Try not to walk on your hands like I do. It is a bad habit that I cannot get out of. I'll go one more here, squeezing the heel to butt, pressing up with the right leg, looking over to my thumbs and fingertips. And then again, you can land back in chaturanga, or you can take your left foot down, right foot down, pyramid pose. If you've got one more hop in you, go for it. If you know when, hopefully you know when to stop. And when you know when to stop, please do. And listen to your body when it tells you to stop. I like this pyramid pose after that just for a nice stretch. And then again, down into Vinyasa garland pose. So if pyramid does not feel like a good recovery after handstand, take this pose instead, Vinyasa garland. Breathe into your back, hips drop, knees open up. All right, and then from here, we're going to come into a kneeling position. I'm going to turn around and face you so that I can use the length of my mat. And so if you can turn around, we're going to take gate pose Pardagasan. So I'm going to actually take my right leg out straight on my mat. So go to wherever your heel is padded, as long as it feels okay. Left knee is padded as well. If you need some padding, get a blanket or an extra mat. I'm going to take my right foot to the floor. And right here, you can stay with the right knee bent. You don't have to straighten your right leg. You could simply enjoy this. This will be a great inner right thigh stretch, opening the left side up. You can reach your left arm overhead here. You can keep your left hand on your hip. And you'll also feel this as you start to bend your knee away. There's a great stretch in the inner left thigh. And then adding on, you can take your right heel to the floor, maybe point your right toes down towards the floor, and then open up here. Right hand would reach towards your shin. Keep left ribs turning open, right ribs turning down, left hip pressing through. Inhale to come back up, pressing into your left knee, and pull the right knee back over to the floor, kneeling pose. We'll get that second side in. So your left foot steps out to the side. You could start to bend your left knee. Feel that pull across the inner thighs. Your left elbow rests gently and comfortably on your left thigh. You could reach your right hand overhead or keep your hand on your hip. And then again, you could always add in that straightened leg. Left leg out, straightening it, pointing your toes down to the floor. And then stretching out down over your left shin with your left hand, right arm up overhead. Keep turning those right ribs open. Keep pressing the right hip through, using your glutes of the right side. Looking up under your right arm, one more breath here. As you inhale, lift, press into your right knee, and take your left knee over and under your hip. Okay, so you can turn around now and face forward, or you can stay where you are, wherever you're comfortable. Camel pose, Ustrasana. Point those toes back, press the tops of your ankles down into the floor, and keep your hands on your hips. Lift your chest up to the ceiling. If you can take your hands now to your heels and press your chest up to the ceiling, driving down into your knees and the front of your shins. Try not to let your hips move over your knees, beyond your knees. So try to keep your glutes over your calves. Lean back into those hands a little bit more if your hands are on your heels. When you have had enough, inhale, come up, and don't let that overstay its welcome. I'm going to sit back over my feet now. You can cross your ankles and come back to seated. And then make your way to the reclining position for bridge pose. So we're going to add on to that camel. We're basically taking camel just flipped 90 degrees. Lie all the way down onto your back. Stay here as long as you need just to pause and rest and let your back relax. And then when you're ready, slide your heels up under your knees. Press your hips up to the ceiling. You can keep your elbows bent and point your fingers up to the ceiling, or you could interlace your hands. So here's elbows bent, hands up. This helps to use the humerus more as leverage, the upper arm bones. Otherwise, your arms can come together beneath you and interlace your fingers. Press straight down into your shoulders so your armpits smile and the shoulder heads move back and down in like an arc to the floor. Lift your hips, use your glutes, use your hamstrings, press down into your heels. Allow your toes to turn out slightly if you need more space in your sacrum. One more inhale here, and then release your arms above head. Exhale, lower down to your hips. Let your knees just rest against each other, or you can straighten out your legs here and take a big full body stretch. We're going to move into a reclining hamstring stretch. So I'm going to start with the right knee coming in and then straightening out the right leg. And then I like to grab the ball of my foot with my right hand. You could interlace your hands behind your calf, behind your thigh. And just gently move into an outer, an abduction. So the inner thigh is stretching. So you're taking the foot out away from you in an angle. So just a couple breaths in each one of those. Leg back up and then exhale back into it. Repeat that as many times as you feel you could dynamically move in and out of that. Not too fast though. I'm only going to do it the one time, so I'll let you decide how often you want to do that. Just give those legs a stretch. And then your right knee is going to come over into a twist when you are finished with that reclining hamstring and adductor stretch. Right arm anchors your shoulder. You can look out over your right hand. You can use your left hand to help your right knee gently come towards the floor on the left side of your body. Inhaling back up through center, squeeze your right knee into your chest. And then we'll switch sides. Take a big reach overhead, press out through your feet. And then as you exhale, hug your left knee in. And you can take that left foot up to your hand now and straighten the left leg out. Maybe you're interlacing your hands behind your thigh on this one. Maybe it's different than the first side, and that's to be expected. It's not a big shock. Sides are different. And then again, out to the side with your left foot. Just a brief couple breaths here. You can inhale back up to center with your left leg. Again, repeat that as many times as you'd like to dynamically open up the back of your left leg and the inside of your left leg. Or you could stay in a static pose for a few breaths. And then we'll move into that twist. So another round of breath here first. And then go ahead and bend your left knee. And use your right hand to guide your left knee across the midline over to the right side of your body. Left arm anchors out to the side. And you can take your gaze over to the left if that's okay for your neck. Breathe right into the left side here. Inhale and exhale. And then after a few moments here, you'll come right back up to center. Hug that left knee in. You can hug both knees in. You can stretch out full body if it feels good. I'm going to land in another knee squeeze. So here's that Apanasana knee squeeze. And then I'm going to set up for constructive rest pose where my feet just come to the floor. Please feel free to Use any pose that is happiness for you. If your feet are on the mat, if your legs are out straight, and just rest and enjoy your breath and enjoy being here with your thoughts in peace and quiet, or maybe it's not quiet. Just be here and embrace everything that makes you you. Thanks, yogis.